I'm so happy to be here with you this morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Edwene Gaines, and what I want you to know about me is that I am a woman of power. And I'm a woman of passion, and I care deeply about you and me and all of our brothers and sisters on planet Earth. It's my full intention to make a difference on this planet. In 1976, I made a commitment to the Lord of my being, the goddess within me, that I would be 100% responsible for the transformation of the abundance consciousness of planet Earth. I travel around the world now about 250 days a year, enrolling co-equal laborers in this task. Now, I'm very clear that I don't have the foggiest notion how to do this. But one of my teachers said to me, "But Edwene, you didn't know how to do puberty either." Did you? Consciously, I didn't know how to be born. Consciously, I did not know how to give birth to a child, and yet somehow I was able to do those wonderful things. And what I know now with clarity and with certainty is that when any one of us puts our intention out there and we make a 100% commitment to that intention, we make every step a step of impeccability, a step of integrity, then somehow the universe opens up a way where before there was no way. Several years ago, I wrote a book called The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity, A Simple Guide to Unlimited Abundance. And in that book, I outlined my journey into prosperity. And I started with holes in my shoes and working 2 jobs, 16 hours a day, into a life today that many would consider a life of great wealth. Now before we go on, I want to define what I call prosperity, because a lot of people hear the word and think, oh, she's just talking money. Well, yes, I'm talking money, but I'm talking about some other things too. I have a very expanded definition of prosperity. Prosperity for me is a vitally alive, healthy body for this God being that we are to express through. Prosperity is relationships that are joyous and satisfying and intimate and honest and nurturing and that work all the time. Prosperity is work that we love so much. It's not work, it's play. And prosperity is indeed all the money we can spend. Can I get an amen, sister, on that? So I'm just very quickly going to mention the laws, and we're going to focus today on one of the quickest ways for you to demonstrate abundance. And I want you to hear me. Spiritual law number 1, we must acknowledge that God is our source by returning 1/10 of all back where we're fed spiritually. It's called the tithe, T-I-T-H-E. The word tithe means a tenth. It does not mean 3%. It does not mean 7%. It does not mean what's left over after you pay the bills. It's 1/10 off the top, given back on a regular and disciplined basis to that person, place, or institution where you've received your spiritual food. Now, what is spiritual food? Spiritual food is that which causes us to remember who we are, wakes us up and shakes us up and gets us back on our spiritual pathway. Your tithe belongs there. Spiritual law number 3, we'll come back to 2. You've got to set clear-cut, tangible goals. You've got to say what it is that you want. What exactly do you want? You have to be specific. Catherine Ponder says, the more specific you are when you set your goals, the quicker you will have your demonstration. Most people treat their catalog order store better than they treat God. Can you imagine calling up Penny's or Neiman Marcus or Macy's or somebody like that and saying, hey, would y'all just send me something you think I'd like? And yet we dare to go to God with this airy, fairy prayer. When you call up Amazon.com or you order something from a catalog order store, they want the size, the page, the fabric, the number, the color, all sorts of specific details. And yet we dare to go to God with this airy, fairy prayer and wonder why we get airy, fairy results. Catherine Potter says the more specific you are, the quicker you will have your demonstration. Just remember this. If you don't remember anything else today, remember this. What starts in vagueness stays in vagueness. I'm just saying. And spiritual law number 4, we've got to seek and find to get on our divine purpose. What are you here for? What is your mission? What's that great work that's uniquely yours? Emma Curtis Hopkins calls it your magnificent opus. What you come to do, to be, to have. St. Exupery says it's good to be a seeker. Yes, it's good to be a seeker, but sooner or later, you must be a finder. And share what you have found with your world. We have far too many professional seekers on planet Earth, in my opinion. I mean, here's some finders, and that's who you are. Right now, the world is hungry to know what you know. So lately, I've been doing a lot of work with angels. We're going to talk about spiritual law number 2. In fact, I'm leaving Wednesday of this coming week to go to Guatemala to do a workshop on prosperity and a workshop on angels. I just got the word this morning in by the email that there's standing room only already, and people who've signed up to come. Thank you, God. But in this work with angels, one of the things I've noticed is that something my teacher told me years ago has stuck with me. Because when I was a child, 4, 5, 6, I could see angels. I could talk to angels. And they were very real for me. And as I got older, I lost the ability to see them. I still feel their presence, but I lost the ability to see them. I went to my early teacher and I said, how come? How come I could see them then and I can't see them now? And she said, the reason that you and I cannot see angels right now is because we've lowered our vibration and they're operating at a different vibratory level than we are. Well, how do I fix it? What do I do to fix it? She said, well, you raise your vibration. Well, I know that, but how do I do that? She said, one of the first things you can do to raise your vibration is forgive. Spiritual law number 2. If you want the quickest, most expedient way to enter into a feeling, an experience of abundance in your life, do your forgiveness work. Now, that's an easy thing to say, is it not? How many of you have had trouble with forgiveness besides me? Man, I'm telling you, I've had some dramas in my life. And I remember one time, this same teacher, I went to her earlier in my career, somebody had stolen my jewelry. And I was mad as a wet hen. And I could not believe this. And I'm angry at God. God, this is not supposed to be happening now. I'm your lady. I've signed up to do this work. I don't have much anyway. And they stole my jewelry. Things my mother gave to me. You know that feeling? My teacher, with a calm, sweet voice that she always had, said to me, Edwene, no one can steal from you, my dear, unless you're a thief. Smoke started coming out of my ears. That's not true. I am not a thief. I do not steal. That is wrong. That is wrong. I do not steal. She said, Edwene, you're stealing my time right now. And I got a hold of the nucleus of a truth that I hadn't fully grabbed the whole thing, but I just got a little seed of it. And what I came to know is that, first of all, no one can do to you what you're not already doing to yourself. Do you hear that? Oh, I don't like to believe that. But you know, about 20 years ago, I went through a really ugly divorce. And I'm a very spiritual person. And I'm not supposed to have things like ugly divorces. And I was mad all the time. Do you know that? I couldn't get over it. And I know, pardon me, I knew that I had to forgive. And I would say things like, well, I forgive you, sorry. Can't do that. And I would write, I forgive you and I set you free. Okay, I've done that. And 5 minutes later, I'm mad again. And so I go back to, this was a different teacher this time. Always have a teacher, folks. Always have somebody you can go to where you can just lay it out. This is what I'm really feeling, all right? It's a good thing. Confession is good for the soul. That's one thing the Catholics got right, honey. God bless them. So I went to my teacher, and she said, well, Edwene, you know what you have to do? You have to forgive. Well, yeah, I know I have to do that, but I don't know how to do that. That's hard. If you only knew what he did to me, you know, that kind of that goes on when we have that little story. And she says, you know, honey, I don't care. I care. He shouldn't have done that. And she said, well, okay, label what he did. Well, I thought about what did he do. She said, I just want one word. Betrayal. He betrayed me. And she said to me, okay, here's your assignment. Spend some time alone with the God of your understanding. Go apart a while from the TV and the dogs and the business of your life and sit alone with this God of your understanding and do your own inventory and take a look at how you're betraying yourself. Oh, it was an amazing lesson for me. I found so many ways in which I was betraying myself. So I invite you now just to take a look at somebody you've been holding a grudge against, somebody you've been blaming, somebody you've been judging, somebody you know did you wrong. You know that old song, Somebody Done Somebody Wrong song? I used to love that song. Good beer drinking song, I'm telling you, before I got so holy. And if you will take a look at that, you will find that whatever that you're labeling them as having done to you or against you or the way that they hurt you, if you will take the time in prayer to go within, you will find that in your innermost soul, there's something in you that's doing that to you as well. How many of you right now know that you have some forgiveness work to do and it's time to do it? Yes, wonderful. Here's a test to see if you have any forgiveness work left to do at all. Do you still have a body? Pretty good giveaway right there. Now, I've done a lot of forgiveness work in my life, and I continue to work on it on a daily basis. And one of the things I've noticed about my own process is the only people that I ever have to forgive are those people who don't do things my way. And there seem to be a lot of them. And many of them drive in Birmingham, I'm just saying. So one of my forgiveness techniques, I use this every night and I offer it to you. It's very powerful. Every night before I go to sleep, as I'm lying in my bed, I ask myself in prayer, have I put anyone outside my heart today? And usually I have. There's some poor soul that did not get Queen Edwene's edict about how to behave on planet Earth, so it's off with their heads. And so what I have to do, first of all, is forgive myself. Now, I want you to hear this. Forgive yourself tenderly and gently, the way you would forgive a little child. Don't beat yourself up. Don't say things like, "Oh, I did it again. I'm just an evil person. I should have known better." All that kind of stuff. That doesn't serve you. Just forgive yourself, tenderly and gently, the way you'd forgive a little child who spilled her milk. You did the best you knew how to do. If you'd known better, you would have done better. And then forgive them for not understanding what your rules are. That's what I have to do. And then I have to look and see, what was the issue? What was going on there? It's always the same issue for me. It's a control issue. I mean, I know how you ought to behave. Do you hear that? I'm working on it. Pray with me. Here's what I know for sure. When you and I were born, nobody slapped a manual in our hands and said, "This is how you live your life." And all of us were born to imperfect parents who did the best they knew how to do. Coming from their background and their experience, they gave you and me all the love they were capable of giving. And I know some of it was pretty pitiful, but it's all they could do. Your parents had one job. That was to get you here. Did they do that? Yes. Anything else you got from your parents was gravy. So let them off the hook. How many of you have an X or 2 or 5 or 97? I've lived a long time. I've got a bunch of them out there. Now, try this little experiment with me for just a moment. Close your eyes and think about your exes. Now, notice if there's any feeling there other than love and appreciation. What you're doing is sitting out an invisible fishing line with a big hook on the end, and you're rolling back into your life somebody just like that ex. Because at some soul level, you and I sent engraved invitations out to our exes to come into our lives because they had something to teach us and something to learn from us. So if we got the lesson, we can feel love and appreciation. If we did not get the lesson, guess what? We get to repeat pre-kindergarten over and over and over until we get the lesson. I speak from experience. Your exes, just as your parents did, gave you all the love they were capable of giving you. If they had known better, they would have done better. Do you know, I finally came to realize the only problem with any one of my exes, and I actually have had more than my share, the only problem with any one of these beautiful men is that they were not the men I wanted them to be. Do you see the control issue there? Just a little tad one. I couldn't love them for who they were. I chose not to love them for who they couldn't be. Take a look and see. Let them off the hook. Right now, you have an opportunity to expand your life in amazing ways. You see, every time that you and I hold on to the least little bit of irritation, blame, judgment, condemnation, ridicule, sarcasm, when we hold on to that against another human being, what we're doing is we're building a wall all the way around us, as if we're building out those big, thick concrete blocks, and the good that we desire and deserve cannot get in. And every time we forgive the least little thing, we open a way for more good to flow into our lives. Unforgiveness blocks your good. Deep breath. I'm going to tell you a truth that you may or may not have heard before. All financial debt is about unforgiveness. Financial debt is a socially acceptable way to punish yourself. When you no longer have a need to punish yourself, you allow that debt to disappear. Now, let me be clear. Mr. Fillmore, in his book Prosperity, distinguishes between what he calls financial debt and what he calls the wise use of credit. So the wise use of credit depends on how you carry it. Maybe that's your home mortgage or your car payment, or maybe your college loan or your business loan. If it feels burdensome, then it's financial debt, and it's about unforgiveness. Well, how do I get out of debt? You forgive. Well, how do I forgive? Well, I happen to know some ways that work. I'll share a lot of them with you this morning and this afternoon. Here's one that I really didn't want to do, all right? Deep breath. Because you and I, at some ego level, have this unconscious addiction to being right all the time. And so whatever happened, it could not have been our fault, unless we're into shame and martyrdom and guilt. There's also that pattern in some folks, but I have not suffered from that a whole lot. It's always their fault. Do you get that? So I have to take a look and see, okay, I know that this is partly my fault, and I know it's their fault, but I have to get past this anger, this frustration, this bitterness, this judgment, this condemnation. So how do I do this? And I couldn't find a way. You know, I forgive you and I set you free. So what I did, I love to do research. So I got my concordance out. I went through the entire Bible, and I looked up every single scripture, Old and New Testament, on forgiveness. And I read every one of them. It wasn't until I came up to the one in the New Testament that something clicked, and I got, oh, that's what I need to do. Those of you who are Bible students will remember the story when the disciples came to Jesus, and they said, essentially, it's not a direct quote, but it's exactly what they said. It's not in the Bible yet, but we're working on it. They said to Jesus, how many times do we have to forgive these so-and-sos? 77 times? And Jesus said, no, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. I thought, well, how do you forgive somebody 70 times 7 times? What does that look like? I don't know how to do that. So I pondered and I prayed about it, and I don't know how to do any that kind of stuff. Finally, I said, okay, I'm going to take this literally. Got myself a little notebook, got me a pen, sat down, and I wrote out I, Edwene, forgive what's his name completely. 35 times in the morning, 35 times in the evening for 7 days. That felt pretty good, and some interesting things came up. My hand would cramp. My ego would say, oh, you don't need to do this. And I know I'm going to do it anyway. And I'd just keep writing, and I'd start to cry, and other things would come up. The second week I did myself. I, Edwene, forgive myself completely. 35 times in the morning, 35 times in the evening for 7 days. That felt even better. The next week I did my father. The next week I did my mother. The next week I did my brother. And then I started on all my previous relationships. That took a couple of years, actually. And what happened? I began to prosper in ways that I had not even imagined I could prosper. Now, I was tithing, I was setting my goals, and I was on purpose for my life, but this was a new level of abundance that I had not experienced before. It was an amazing thing. And at the end of that period, I found myself absolutely debt-free, not even any wise use of credit debt. I paid off a 30-year mortgage in 7 years on my retreat center in North Alabama. I went down and I wrote a check for my Lincoln. I travel first class. I use my credit cards, but I pay them off, all of them off, every month when I get the bill. I live an absolutely debt-free life. And I believe that's God's will for you as well, if you're willing to do your part. Now, people use this kind of excuse to me, so I'm going to ask you not to do it. People come to me and say, oh, things like this. Well, if God wanted me to have water, God would give me water. No, honey. If you want water, you get up off your assets. You go to the kitchen, you get you a glass out of the cupboard, you go to the faucet, you turn it on, water comes out. The amount of water that you get depends on the size of your cup. Do you understand? There are prerequisites for having what you want. There are rules to follow. And those rules I present to you are, number one, acknowledge that you know that God is your source. Now, hear me. God doesn't need your money, but you and I need to learn to give. 1/10 is the beginning of giving. It is pre-K, Barney, Mowgli, Jungle Book giving, all right? 1/10 of all back where you're fed spiritually on a regular and disciplined basis. Now, please hear me. I'm not talking about giving to charity. That's a very kind thing to do, but that is not a tithe. In fact, the mystics say if you give your tithe, that first tenth to need, you're creating need in your own life. And I bet you know someone who's so generous they'd give you the shirt off their back, and yet they live in poverty. It's because they don't understand the sanctity, the holiness of the first tenth. You've got to set clear-cut, tangible goals. You've got to say exactly what it is that you want. And you've got to get on purpose with your life. But if you will begin today to do your forgiveness work in a deeper way than you've ever even attempted before, you will find results that are amazing, that will lift your spirit, that will show you the richness of spirit that is already here for you. We have a workshop that starts at 1:30. There's no charge for it. It's offered on a love offering basis. I invite you, if you will, to go and call somebody that you really love and ask them to be here with you as we do some powerful inner work. Now, I know that some of you may think that you have other plans. I invite you to allow the Holy Spirit to change them. Let me close this morning with a teaching given to us by a man by the name of Patrick Overton. I'm sure that you've heard me say this before, or someone, but it feeds my soul and I love it. Mr. Overton writes, when you have come to the edge of all the light that you know, and you're about to step off into the darkness of the unknown, faith is knowing that one of two things will happen. There'll be something solid to stand on, or you'll be taught how to fly. Flying lessons 130. God bless.